Welcome back to Worldview. Now, Roshi Pehjan is Executive Director of Aslan Media Initiatives, a nonprofit media organization focused on news and information about Middle East, North Africa, and Southern Asian regions. Aslan Media seeks to break the mainstream chokehold on the public discourse about the Middle East, provide a place for authentic and constructive discourse, as well as offering a place for global youth to make their voices heard. Now, Roshi's a second-generation Iranian-American and the first of her family to be born in the USA. She's lived and worked abroad in Europe and the UK, including a much-cherished year over here in the United Kingdom at St. Andrews University, and she maintains strong ties here. She speaks English, Farsi, and Spanish and is working towards beating her grandfather's record of 10 languages by polishing up on her Italian and French, and she joins us today from California. Goedenavond en hartelijk welkom bij Worldview, Roshi.
Hello.
What, not
Hello.
Dutch? Not Dutch? You don't speak Dutch?
No, thank you. No, not Dutch. No, that actually sounded German to me. My grandfather did speak German.
Well, I just thought I'd throw a little curveball right there at the start to see.
And you did, yes. Bonjour.
Bonjour, bonjour. Now, Iran is such a mysterious country to much of the West, especially since 1979. So why don't we begin? Tell us a little bit about the political and economic environment of Iran today.
Oh gosh, part of the problem both for outsiders and, to be honest with you, insiders, people living in the country, is that the current situation isn't even 100% clear. The government, as you can imagine, is very secretive. And what the people in the country are aware of is that there's certainly infighting and factions within what the West really seems to consider a very cohesive and monolithic government, totalitarian government. But in fact, there's a lot of players, there's a lot of fractures in factions currently. As the whole world knows, the economy is not doing very well at all. And sanctions obviously have a large part to do with that. However, mismanagement by the government is, I would say, another half of that, if not a greater majority of why the economy is doing so awfully.
Now, Iran's been making headlines of a different sort lately, and let's start with this. President Rouhani is a moderate meme. Is he, and how should the West deal with his overtures?
Well, that's an excellent question, because he is a moderate in the sense of, it's all respective, right? So he's a moderate compared to those who ran against him, which are part of the hardliners of the regime. And he is not a moderate in the sense of perhaps that Khatami was, as a quote-unquote, he's not considered a reformer. So the West has to be very careful in understanding the difference between a moderate and a reformer. What may be the best analogy for the United States might be a moderate Republican versus a Democrat or a progressive.
And those moderate Republicans are indeed an endangered species in the United States, particularly with the hardline right. And I would imagine that if he truly is a moderate, he'd be in danger in his own country in terms of being, going up against the hardline religious right.
Right.
How deeply have the global sanctions against Iran hurt the country's economy and the people as a whole?
Well, this is interesting. This is a very big point of contention for even the Iranian diaspora community. I mean, I've had arguments with my own family about the validity of sanctions, and a large part of the international and Iranian international diaspora community actively are doing activism against these sanctions, both in Washington, D.C. and helping with humanitarian issues in Europe and over there. And it's definitely having a very, very negative effect on people's lives, and people's lives are at stake. Now, one of the counter arguments, and I wouldn't say this has no validity, but again, it's hard to know exactly what goes on in Iran, because information is so distorted and unclear. But there's, some people who are supportive of sanctions say, well, the regime is using it as an excuse in order to behave badly. And so, for example, things like medical equipment not getting to the people who need it is, because the people at the top of the Iranian regime are not managing it properly and they're using the sanctions as an excuse. So I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think the sanctions are absolutely hurting are not helping anyone, and they're just killing people at this point. And I think that the West is really not being honest about the fact that it's being used as regime change, and it's really just sort of nonsensical, just because of the political tensions.
We're speaking with Roshi Pehjan, Executive Director of Aslan Media, here on Worldview Show. Now, Roshi, Iran seems to suffer from some of the same demographic time bombs as the rest of the region, a very young and growing population being run by in this case, clerical regime with a very strong military and a very strong secret police force. How does the growth, when we had the Green Revolution and other movements, how does this affect the leadership and their hold on power in the country?
Well, I think, again, the Iranian diaspora community in the world has been just hoping and holding on to hope since the Green Movement that what has happened in the Arab countries, neighboring Arab countries, would happen there, and that the regime would be shaken. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. And to be honest with you, many of us are still trying to figure out exactly why that is. The Iranian population, yes, they're young, but they're also some of the most highly educated in the region as well. So you have these really intelligent, highly capable kids who have no opportunities, have nothing to do, are highly limited in their daily personal lives. So to be honest with you, a lot of them flee the country. They come to the United States, they come to Britain, Europe, and it's just, if anything, I think what may topple the regime is actually the fissures in its own foundation. It seems, as much as we'd like to hope, that the people aren't exactly having the effect, and 100% that's not 100% clear. Obviously it helps that the army is still with the regime. If what happened in Egypt could happen in Iran, then there would be hope, where if the army separated and really helped to bring down the clerics, then of course we'd have the same issues we have in Egypt, which are, then we have a military coup, and what do we do with them?
And so many young people and dissidents have lost their lives in Iran. I mean, there are dozens of Facebook pages out there talking about the loss of loved ones who were simply disappeared. What can be done, if anything, to free those who are being held simply for expressing a different view than the clerics?
Well, it seems hopeless sometimes, but I have to say that international pressure, not from the top, but from grassroots, really does make a difference. There's a wonderful organization called United for Iran. That's a 4 with a number. And they do a lot of work in human rights in Iran. Of course, people like Shirin Ebadi, are the human rights lawyer and Nobel winner, are always doing work in that. And even things like petitions and pushing, it has made a difference in helping to have people released. It's sort of been a one-on-one case basis, which in a grassroots model, really does sort of work in a grassroots model, because you can focus on one person, achieve something, focus on another, and achieve something.
When we look at the way in which the government has received pressure, it seems almost to sometimes turn a blind eye, because when you look at hotspots across the region, I mean, Iran appears to be atop the list of troublemakers pretty much everywhere. I mean, they're sending 2 million refugees across the border into Jordan as a result of what goes on in Syria. I mean, they're very involved there. They're very involved with Hezbollah. They're practically controlling half of Iraq at this point because of the weak government of Prime Minister Maliki. Now they're meddling in Egypt, but when Morsi was there. I mean, how is Iran so successful in exporting its theocracy across this region?
I'm not sure that it's successful in export, or that it's even trying to export its theocracy. It's trying to export, it's exporting military power is basically what it's exporting. And, it's been successful because they've siphoned off all the money from the people, which is why the economy is in such a bad state, to really do sort of stealth conquering, as I like to call it. Like you said, they've got their hand in the pot in Syria. They have basically opened doors thanks to our mismanagement of Iraq in Iraq. And right now, I think as much as there's fractures in the Iranian government, they're kind of having a field day, as we say here. And it's unfortunate. And it seems that, well, and who knows, that may be their undoing, because, as we know from history, as leaders face away from their own people to look at what they're conquering, things happen in the country. So it remains to be seen if that's what's going to happen there.
Which I guess brings us to our last question and concern, which has to do with the nuclear discussions with Secretary of State Kerry, many other leaders from around the European Union and the globe, trying very hard to come to some sort of an agreement on the disposal and the ceasing of the nuclear weapons program there. How likely is that to succeed, in your opinion?
Well, the last bit of news we heard is that they are haggling over the final document. So Iran's side is sitting down with Ashton, the EU side, and it's funny because at the same time, while both Iran and everyone else is hopeful, they're saying, yes, we're here at this point of doing a document. There are sticking points in the document that could potentially unravel everything. It seems like there's a will, and where there's a will, there's a way. I hate to sound cliche, but really the fact that Iran and the EU and even America to some degree are sort of there and willing, is less likely to drop and just sort of be like, forget it, the way France has. So I'm hopeful. I think it would be really interesting to see once an agreement is reached, no one's talking about then what. So then what happens to the era? What happens to the political relationship at that point?
And of course, you've also got the issue out there of Benjamin Netanyahu earlier this week saying that if Israel perceives, and not Netanyahu, rather his defense minister, saying if they perceive the deal to be a bad deal for the West, they will just go ahead and attack anyway. So I mean, it is just such a ridiculous soup there, and you wonder how anything ever can get done. And then obviously it explains why things have not gotten done in quite such in all the time that they've been trying to sort things.
Yeah, if anything, it's interesting because Israel is showing itself to be much more of a loose cannon at this point, that everyone is, sort of blaming Iran for being a loose cannon, and this is why we can't let them have nuclear weapons. But no one is more wild and off the cuff at the moment than Israel and its hardline government. So that is very worrying. I think that even they are not as arrogant and stupid as to attack once an international agreement is reached. It would be catastrophic. Not just for the region, it would be catastrophic for Israel. That would be a bad, bad idea. So for Israel's sake, I hope they don't do that.
Well, to be continued indeed, and we'll check back with you hopefully as time goes forward. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Roshi Pehjan. She's the executive director of Aslan Media. She's based in California. You're watching Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Stay right here.